Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre, and Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day that we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Today, we are going to have one of the most uncomfortable conversations for any parent, especially men. And women, you might be mad at me by the end of the show, but today we are talking about fathers' rights and the importance of fathers' rights, as well as resources that assist fathers in obtaining their rights. So today we have Kamal Parker and Jay Williams, who will be leading us in the conversation to their personal story. And then by the end of the show, and I tell you this now so you can grab your pen and a piece of paper so you can write down the resources that can help you attain the rights that should equally be yours, but because of the justice system, you might have difficulties obtaining. So one of the things that a lot of people don't know, I'm going to be transparent, is me and my backstory towards my revelation of why fathers' rights are so important. So right now, I'm 34, and I had my first child when I was 20. At 17, I met the children's dad. We were great together. My father liked him. My family liked him. We got pregnant when I was 19. Anari was born when I was 20. We were still together from 21. 22, I got pregnant with Asaria, and we had chaos in between. But at 22, it was then 7 months pregnant that I decided that this is not going to work. The situation was absolutely horrible for me, for him, and for our children. And at 7 months, I decided to leave Boston, and I moved to Birmingham, Alabama. First and foremost, I put my children in a distance between their father and the man that they were supposed to be with. Like, he should have had access to his children. But because of my decision, and I'm learning now that that's parental kidnapping, going across state lines with your child. I don't care, women, I gave birth 9 months it's parental kidnapping. And I was guilty of it, but he never took me to court. Again, resources, fathers, if she leaves the state without your consent, you can go to court and tell the judge, I did not consent to this. Resource, you have to use your voice. From there, the chaos continues, and it was mostly because of me. The insanity, the yelling, the screaming, the back and forth, the arguing, the putting my children in situations that they could have avoided was all of my fault. And I take responsibility for it now, and it's like, oh, you're a grown-up. You can talk about it as an adult. But the truth of the matter is, when this was happening, I put my children in a very bad space. And it's crazy that during that time, Anari remembers everything. He remembers the arguments. He remembers the phone calls and transparency. He remembers the fact that I did not allow him to speak to his dad when he was crying for his father. And when we moved to Alabama, Anari was 2 years old, and he, for 3 months straight, cried every night to sleep for his daddy. And that was difficult. I thought 22 years old, I was doing the right thing. I was emotionally charged and doing what I felt was necessary for me, necessary for the children, but most of all, necessary for my own personal mental health. And it was about me. If you listen to Rewind, me. And that's exactly how I conducted myself for years and years. Fast forward a little bit, he came and saw the children once in a while. Money, funds, it takes money, not to just raise a child, but on my behalf, you're not participating, you're not contributing, and his every time his rebuttal was, you took my kids. I could have done whatever I could have had a babysitter. You're paying for a babysitter for what? I could have had my kids. You're frustrated and don't have alone time. Why? Because I don't have that was the rebuttal for everything. And it was a slap in the face every time, because while I thought I was doing the right thing, again, my children were suffering. When Anari was 7 years old, Asaria was about 3 or 4, I got the courage, I got the strength to say, yes, you can go for the summer. And I want to say, as a mother, that was difficult. It was hard. Of course, as a father, I want my kids. It's summertime. You're complaining about not being able to pay for daycare. You're complaining about you're in school. You need time to yourself. The solution is in front of your face, but your emotions are dictating your decisions. I finally let my guard down and made one of the hardest decisions, and that was to bring the kids on a plane to Boston and go back to Birmingham without them. And then it enraged me, it angered me, it frustrated me. I didn't want to do it, but I saw the anguish in my kids. And honestly, it came a time where I really did need some alone time. I really did need some time for me and to finish school. And during the summer, I was working full time, taking massive amounts of credits, as well as working a nighttime job as a bartender. So I wasn't going to be able to provide for them emotionally like I wanted to. I said, I give up, I let it happen. The end of the summer came, I bought my ticket to go back. I got their ticket so they could come back, and Anari called me. And if you follow the show, if you follow me, you already know how opinionated he is. And he said, Mommy, Asaria and I have decided that we think it would be best for you to finish school while we stay with our dad. I almost got on a plane right then and there and was just like, nope, let's go now. While I was in Birmingham, Alabama, I had the support of my aunties, I had the support of my grandmother, I had a lot of family support. And so I deliberated on this. I couldn't sleep, I didn't eat. It was this was a huge decision to live my life feeling like a deadbeat mom. Like I'm not gonna have my kids. I'm not going, first and foremost, I'm a control freak. And so not having control of where they are and where they sleep and who they're with, and transparency, their father wasn't making the best decision in females at the time. I wasn't making the best decision in males. But I didn't see my side of the nonsense. I was just looking at his. And long story short, they stayed. And it was hard. It was so hard that I did not finish my senior year at Birmingham Southern College. I ended up finishing my senior year at Pine Manor because the control freak in me would not allow my children to go to school I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I got on a plane. I enrolled in what online said was the #1 liberal arts school, all women's school in the country. I left Birmingham Southern, which was most likely for me the #1 liberal arts school in the country. And when I got to Pine Manor, I felt like it was a community college. I was challenged at Birmingham Southern. I was, my thoughts were actually formed where I was forming thoughts at Pine Manor. I eventually graduated and still had issues with their dad. Again, most of it stemming from his relationships, most of it stemming from him just wanting to be active and me wanting to be in control. There was an incident that took place that I will never forget, and I don't think my kids will ever forget either, where he came to pick them up for the weekend. And I was in my feelings about the plans that they had for the weekend involving his girlfriend at the time. And he had my daughter in his arms. He was walking down the steps. My son was at the top of the steps. and I moved Inari away. I ran down the steps and I went to grab Asaria from her father, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs, I want my daddy, I want my daddy. And Inari is at the top of the steps saying, Mommy, I'll stay. It's okay. I'll stay with you. Just as an adult thinking about this now, I think about like the maturity in his then decision. I think about how he was trying to pacify me, even though he really did want to go with his dad. And she's screaming and he's screaming, and their father's like, T, like, you're doing this. You're the cause of this. We could have just left. We could have been in the car by now. You don't see the BS that you're contributing to. My neighbor is there, like, T, calm down. It's okay. It was 100% chaotic, and I was the cause. I was the reason. And it was in that moment that I decided that I needed to make a change, because at the end of the day, all my emotions, they weren't in any harm. They weren't going to be hurt. He wasn't putting them in a bad situation. He wasn't causing emotional damage, but in that moment I was. And having to take responsibility for that was difficult. That wasn't too long ago. It wasn't 15 years ago. It was it was like 6-7 years ago. And today we are absolutely in an amazing space. We still, have tit for tats. We still come at each other's throats when necessary, but I feel, and not just in my feelings, because again, a lot of my decisions have been emotionally charged, but it's an amazing feeling when Inari and Asaria say, Mommy, you have grown. Remember, if this would have happened, that you would have went ahead and yelled at Dad, this would have been an issue. That's my story. We're going to hear a story from the male's perspective. We're going to take a quick break. I am Tayla Andre. You are waking up with Tayla Andre. Oh. So my story is personal to me, but as far as the men are concerned, the men's story is never shared. It's always about the women. It's always about how we feel and what they did to us and I believe there's a movie that Tyler Perry just came out with talking about like how females act when we don't get our way, when it comes to a breakup. And typically that's when we have the most animosity. It's when a breakup takes place. It's not because of us or didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, and we take it out on the child. Really, the men are the bystanders of the violence, but the violence in itself and our decisions as women really hurts the child. The child is the victim. Even though we're over here feuding and battling and spewing words and sometimes throwing hands at men, at the end of the day, it's the child that suffers. So I can't wait to hear the male's perspective. And we have two sides of the story. We have Kamal, who has been able to receive custody of his sons, who are now adult men. And we have Jay, who is in the beginning stages of his quote-unquote jail sentence. So we have, for fathers who have been there, done that, and we have dads that are currently going through the struggle. Learn from them, listen to them, and trust and believe that their story is your story. And how can you use what they've done? How can you use the resources that they've had in order to change your situation? And I know there's a lot of men out there that just have given up, that have walked away completely, like, I can't deal with her. She's absolutely crazy. She's psychotic. I don't want nothing to do with her. And I get it. Crazy baby mama, number one, I get it. But where there's a will, there's a way. And we're going to discuss that when we come back.
You got a king?
Go fish!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
I am Tayla Andre. You're waking up with Tayla Andre. Unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. And today we are having an uncomfortable conversation, mostly for the women, and an eye-opening conversation, mostly for the men. So before the break, I told you that we're about my story and my personal crazy baby mama issues that I had. I really didn't go in depth, but you guys get the gist. We're going to talk a little bit with Kamal as well as Jay and get their story and help the men as well as the women understand the roles we play and how to assist these children in obtaining a co-parenting situation. Kamal?
How you guys doing? Hi, Taylor. Well, first I want to start by saying that I applaud your courage and the introduction. You did speak a lot about some things that I feel like it's difficult for ladies to talk about oftentimes, and it's good to hear a woman speak as candidly as you were just speaking about, going through a situation with the father of your children. My name is Kamal Parker. I'm a program director at Excel Adult Education. I'm a father of 2 sons. My sons are grown now. They're 21 and 22, so I'm not a father of children anymore. I'm a father of grown men. And I think I went through similar situations with you and the father of your children, because we did have 2 children, and there were times that I had custody of the children and times that she had, but more so, they were with her for a greater portion of the time. And I think that the biggest problems me and her had in regards to the children weren't when we were together, but more so when I decided to move out of the relationship and out of the house more times than not, and end up in other relationships. And this is where, this is where everything would start to get kind of messy at, And I don't want to get into a situation today because me and her are in a good space, so I will speak about some of the stuff that we went through, and I'm going to try to keep it as light as possible because we are in a good space, and she's grown a lot, and she's able to speak it just as candidly as you are in regards to what we've been through. And I think a lot of that had to do with the time and also her doing her own self-reflecting in regards to how the actions she had and some actions of mine as well affected our sons. So.
Jay?
Good evening, Taylor. Jay Williams. I'm trying to keep it as light as possible. My child's mother and I, we're not at that point yet. Enough time hasn't gone by for where we're in a really good situation, but definitely working to get to that point. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, college graduate. I have a 4-year-old son. Right now, I only have him on the weekends. He's in every sport possible, every program possible. I try to give him as much as possible that I didn't even have. I didn't really have my father around when I was growing up, so I try to be there as much as possible. So the fact that I've had a lot of issues with my child's mother makes it even harder because I remember how it felt not to have my father around. So I'm happy to be here, learn from you guys. Definitely want to learn from this brother who's kind of been there, done that. you know, as you kind of joked, I'm in the beginning stages of this, and I know everyone says, you know, give it enough time, and I'm counting those hours, I'm counting those days down to the seconds. You know, 14 years, 4 or 5 months, 5, 6, 7 seconds. So, you know, we're going. But thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. So you touched on really quickly not having your father in your life, and that was the first thing that I wanted to discuss, was the roles that your father's played in your own life.
For me, I often said that I learned how to be a father by doing things opposite of what my father did. I don't know if that's that's exactly what it was. So, my father left when he was around 7, and he never came around. He was addicted to drugs, and he started to go down a path that my mother separated from him, and he was in and out of jail. And I think that he did clean himself up a lot of years later, when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, and he came back into me and my sister's life. At that time, there were so many things that I went through between the time that he was gone and the time that he came back around, that I always would sit sometimes and reflect and say, to myself, where's my father at? I know I needed a father, especially now when I started to look back at it and say, I needed my father around for certain things, and he wasn't there. And, as I became a lot older, I started to also look at just the other implications in terms of having a father at home, that I started looking at the neighborhood and the kids around my neighborhood that grew up with me, and everyone that went down the wrong path. None of us had our fathers around, and everyone that was doing all right, they all had a father. It was, it was like, it was that clear, literally that cut. So, that was one thing. I didn't have my father around, but I did have a couple of fathers around, and I tell these men to this day that they were the role models to me. They were like the teachers for me in terms of how to be a father. One of them was my little cousin's father. So Latia and Lamar Parker Olin, he would come around every day after work and make sure that my little cousins did their homework. He would sit there for a couple of hours around, in front of the house, and just, deal with the kids, talk to their mother. They had an older sister, and he would look out for her a little bit. But he was around. He would definitely come around all the time, and every Monday through Friday, between maybe about 4:30 and 7, you would catch him around it. So to me, that was like, that was one of the people I knew that I had to always be around my kids. Even as they got older, I wanted to make sure that I was able to be around them and be in the areas that they hang out in, just to watch how they interact and how they play with other kids, and just to have a physical presence around like that. And another guy that was pivotal in terms of how I processed how to be a father was a lady I call my aunt, Ayana Kinsey. The father of her children, Jelani Askia's father, actually. When we would go over there to play as kids, he would kind of, keep all of the kids around. He would cook, and he would take us out places almost every weekend, and he did it almost effortlessly, and it was kind of like, he put energy and effort into it. But he did it. He never complained or anything like that. So that to me was a big deal. And I always said that, once my kids got to that age, I would make sure that I would keep their cousins and stuff around, and always take them out, and do stuff like that with them. So those were probably two of the most pivotal people in regards to what I viewed as, fatherhood. You know what I'm saying?
So even though you didn't have your physical dad in the household, you still had male figures that gave you an idea of how to be a father, the father that you are today. And for those who don't know, Kamal is actually my cousin, and Olin was amazing. I remember going out on weekends with Olin to various everythings, and he definitely was a father figure to all. Javon, what about your interactions with your father or male figures?
So my father wasn't available up until I was basically 11. I had my grandfather who was there for me and really kind of taught me everything, and gave me that support and mentorship that I needed. In addition to my grandfather, I had my church family. We had a gentleman by the name of Tip Harris, who was our youth group coordinator. So he always, looked out for all of us. We got to travel out of state, different places. Between him and also my uncle Keith Williams, that was a part of the church as well. Those were basically the mentors that I had growing up. Now, as an adult, I've been able to lean on, my fraternity brothers who have been a big help for me, and really their guidance and mentorship has allowed me to navigate through this process that I'm dealing with right now with my child's mother. So I'm very thankful to have them, and like I said, talking to this gentleman right now, when I get the chance to meet brothers who've kind of experienced this, I take them on as mentors as well, because I know that they've gone through this right now, because a lot of times I'm feeling like, why am I'm the only one going through this, when I'm quite sure there's a lot of brothers who are going through the same thing or even worse. So, just being able to talk to, whoever, and have them as a mentor, that's just been, pivotal for me, especially right now where I'm at.
So without getting into like the meat and potatoes, or like making people feel some type of way about their actions, because we're being very vague, and like in the things that I've dealt with, the things that I went through, what are some of the issues that men are facing now when it comes to lack of equal parental rights?
What, jail time? It was just go straight to it. Straight to it, jail time. You're not getting, the amount of time that you would like with your child. You're fighting just for a minute or a second of time. It's hard to, try to plan for the future when it's always a question mark. You have to jump through so many hoops. It's ridiculous. That's what it is that I've been dealing with. It hasn't been as bad of late, but depending on which way the wind's going, kind of determines how that's going to be.
Yeah, I think as it relates to my situation, there was just so much autonomy I felt like the mother of my children had, regards to anything, that, it was kind of like when I started to say, hey, well, I don't agree with that, it was almost like, you don't have the right to even, disagree almost, so, and I felt at certain points that, because she was, at that time, I felt like the custodial parent, because she had a place, she had an apartment at that time. And I didn't. She did have a bigger voice, and I think that there were times that I felt that there were the things that I was saying made a lot of sense, but I didn't feel like there was going to be any support around me, saying that. So, she would do things like switch their schools, without even considering whether or not I want them to be at a certain school, or stuff like that, or she would just, she was just doing a lot of things autonomously that I felt like I might not necessarily agree that that's the best thing, for our children, So, and then anytime that we would have any disagreement, we would try to get to some common understanding. The only times that we really didn't is when we weren't together, and especially when I had another girlfriend. So it would be like, that would be the thing that would make her, go and then, go off the deep end, but also go down to Department of Revenue and start saying, I want child support. So, it would be those type of things, So.
And I think that is a great segue into the court system. How have you guys navigated through the court system as of, recently, and how did you navigate through the court system when during a time where there was less resources, there was less support, there was less voice for men? I feel like today, Javon, I don't know your experience, but I feel like there are more programs, there are more resources, there are more like pro bono attorneys willing to work with men, where maybe 15, 20 years ago, it was like, well, you might be on your own, and where's that money at?
I was on my own. I was on my own, and, and I really didn't know. I really didn't have an idea as to how to work through it. So, what happened in my circumstances was I had to figure it out. So, and then I didn't want to throw my hands in. I had friends that, you know, they had threw the towel in, kind of, so to speak. They just were fighting with the mother of their kids, and then just would be like, you know what, I'm not even dealing with that no more. You know, and they would just, you know, they would be so worn down from trying to fight that they would just stop the fight. And I would see that would kind of strengthen this picture of what the mother of their children is trying to create them to be now. So, and I didn't want to be that either. I didn't want to now, you know, give any credence to what she was trying to, like, I felt push me, paint me as. So, you know, I started to just prepare for, you know, let me just come in here and cross all my T's and dot all my I's when I do go in front of a judge and see what, you know, and it just, you know, see what happens. And then if it doesn't work out in my favor, I have to look at what the next steps, you know, are. So.
Did you have an attorney? Did you have somebody walk you through those steps?
No. So luckily, luckily the second, now the mother of my children has taken me to court in the past twice, 2 separate times. The first time she took me to court, it was because I had a new girlfriend and I was staying with the girlfriend. The minute that she found out, I think that week she went to Department of Revenue and, you know, filed for child support. Now, I would buy everything for the kids or give whatever she would ask for. I would just give her the money. It wasn't really like a big deal around that. So I didn't understand, why are you going to court now about it? And she, you know, she didn't give me a clear answer. She wouldn't answer me about it. And, you know, she went to court, we went to court. They made a judgment against me. And the judgment was less than what I was giving her, so every month. So that didn't make any sense to me either. So, you know, I was like, all right, cool. You know, and I was paying that for a while. But then me and her got back together. The judgment didn't stop though. So now I'm living in the house, right? I'm living in the house, right?
You're
so
paying all the bills and still paying child support.
And she had a son that when I met her, he was 2. I'm taking care of him as well. So I'm just like, you know, but then these bills would keep popping up, and they were going to my mother's house at that time. I'm not living there anymore. And I see it keep, you know, growing, and I said, you know, you need to figure this out, this stuff right here. And when she went to attempt to try to get that thrown out, they said she had to file a motion and, you know, do a bunch of legal stuff. And I think that was she just didn't do it. So if you fast forward some time later, many moons later, you know, my license was gone. So wake up one day, you know, I get a piece of paper, you owe 30-some thousand.
What?
Yeah, literally. 30-some thousand, and you don't have a license, right? So I'm like, how do I work? You know, how do you function, especially in Boston, right? Without a driver's license, if you can't get around. So, and I was calling down, I'm like, how do you take my license? How much do I owe y'all? I don't really owe y'all. I was taking care of the whole house. Like, you know, she'll tell y'all this, and, you know. So there was a guy that worked at Department of Revenue. He kind of gave me a little bit of help. He said, you know, it's non-AFDC. At this time, I didn't know DOR, AFDC. I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. He said it's non-AFDC, and I'm like, you know, what does that mean? He said, well, she wasn't getting assistance from the government, so, you know, she can come in and get this taken off you if she sees fit. So I called her. I just said to her, you know, and at this time we were in a good space, even though we weren't together, we were still, you know, just in a good space. And I said, you know, can you figure this out now? Because they took my license, you know. I mean, I can't renew my license now and all that. And this is gonna, you know, severely stunt my growth. And I'm doing a lot of things that I know are gonna at some point pass down to the kids. And she was, you know, she was cool about it. She went down. We went in there. We filed the paper down there. They pulled it up that day. Within a week or two, they had threw out the $39,000, and I was able to get my license. There was about $1,500 left, I think, that she was getting She was getting welfare at one point that I didn't know about, even when I was taking care of her. I'm like, you know, it was about $1,500. But that was something else. I was like, how do you get welfare? And I'm here paying stuff. So she was able to create a bill for me that I didn't know that I was going to have, right?
Because you had to pay all that back.
Yeah, I had to pay it back. Yeah. So I didn't really argue about it. I was just like, you know, okay, how do I got to pay? Can I pay it back right now and get my license back? And the guy said, no. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, you have to pay 6 months of consecutive payments before we take the license, before we give you back your license.
What?
So I'm like, what are you talking about? You have to pay 6 months worth of consecutive payments.
So I can't pay
Can
the
I pay the
full
6 months up right now? You know, he was like, no, you got to pay 6 months. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, how does that make? It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So, and this is a lot of people still go through this right now. And I'm just like, you know. Like,
My mind is completely blown,
Literally.
and I know you don't have the answers, and we don't have.
and I work with people right now around trying to figure those answers out
Out.
right now
Oh
still
my
as well.
gosh.
So, you know, so that wasn't the case. I ended up having to pay it all the way outright. I just paid it all off. And she helped me pay some of it off. I paid it all off. And then I was able to get my license. But
6 months later?
No, I was able to get it before I had to pay it all off, the whole balance. No, if not that, if you were going to pay it in payments, you didn't make 6 months worth of payments before you were able to get your license back activated. And I still hear those stories today, so.
So
I know
it's
that's
still
probably
a part of the
happening, right,
system.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think that I would hope that they're addressing that now, so. You know.
And this is one of the things that I talk about regularly as far as like reform is concerned. And we can rally, we can have support groups, we can have conversations all day, but at the end of the day, it's the actual legal policy that needs to change, the law that needs to change. And a lot of people don't know that the Governor's Council, I talk about the Governor's Council so much because it's important, the Governor's Council, the individuals that appoint or handpick the judges and handpick who sits at the bench, and then the governor himself then appoints these judges. And if we, the Governor's Council, don't look like the community, we're going to be putting people on the bench who don't look like us, who are going to make decisions not knowing these stories, not understanding these stories, not say that it's a black or white issue, because I have fathers that contact me from New Zealand, Australia, Texas, California, all over the world, literally, like, can you help me get my child back? And I'm like, technically I can't, but these are the steps that you need to take in order to find the resources to assist you in getting your equal parental rights. Javon, I can't imagine that. Does your story mirror Kamal's or your navigation through the justice system?
No. When my son was 3 months, I took my child's mother to court because she wasn't allowing me to see my son. So I took her to court, and you just talked about the child support. The first thing they do is they put you on child support as soon as I'm like I filed. So. At first, I didn't understand why I was being put on child support when I'm taking her to court. But I guess how it's set up, that's automatic, which is fine. I find that, giving the child support, it made it a lot easier when it came to the money issues. Once they gave that rate, that was it. So it's just easy for me to pay it. I don't have to argue with monies or, if you need this, that, you have it. So, don't really come to me about anything else. I have no problem giving stuff. When she says she needs a coat, I'll get him that. I buy him, tons of jeans, sneakers, shirts, anything he needs, I'll send it, which I think is reasonable. But I don't really go overboard when it comes to the child support. We go off the judgment and kind of go from there. Because I feel that sometimes they use that as a way of, a way of power. Even after they made the judgment, I would always get threatened with, I'm gonna take you back to court. I'm gonna, do this, and because of my experience in court, I'm always thinking it's gonna be something negative. Just in trying to see my son more, I ran through a lot of just roadblocks. I felt like the judge will look at me and automatically just say, "You're the bad parent." Even when I'm the person that took her to court. For my son's first year of life, if you add up all the hours, I only saw him for 14, 15 days. So that was the tough thing for me. And again, a lot of that was because I didn't choose to have further a relationship with the child's mother. But after my son was born, sometimes I felt like maybe she thought that was gonna bring us together, but that wasn't the case. So I think that's where a lot of our disagreements and issues, stem from, the fact that we didn't have this, this family that she dreamed of. We just were not right for each other. But the most important thing, which is being able to co-parent for our son. So it just dealing with the legal system. I've had some situations where I've lost my job in one situation because kind of false accusations. Not even kind of there were false accusations. Just there would be, if there was an argument, she would do certain things to just kind of push you. Like I would have a situation where I would get pushed or punched, and if I blocked or coughed, anything.
He said cough.
They were looking at me. I had a situation where that's basically what happened. And as soon as you get the legal side in, they're just looking at me. I'm 6'4". They're like, you're automatically guilty. So that's a tough situation. Luckily, I was able to navigate through that. I wish I was more knowledgeable about a lot of the resources that were there. I ended up getting a lawyer because I found that every time I went to court, the judge wouldn't listen to me. He didn't really want to hear anything I had to say. It just seems that, mothers get all the rights, and that's really how I saw things. When I had the lawyer, it was just a little bit easier. $7,000, $8,000 later, I was able to get a judgment, which was, it was okay. Right now I have my son every weekend, which I'm thankful for. But it took a lot just to get there. There was just, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of back and forths and legal issues that, I don't really want to touch, but, they're behind me. But, I'm here, so. And my son's doing great. He's doing great.
So one of the issues that I would like to touch on is, I know that your son is extremely active, like karate, piano lessons, like you have him in a lot of extracurricular activities. Is that something that you guys co-parent together, or is that something that you do on your own? Because I know when it comes to the court's like, listen, we don't want no parts of that. You guys have to figure that out. So for the parents for the fathers that are trying to figure something out, like if the son or if the child wants to play a sport and one parent's like, well, I don't have the time to take during my time. I don't have time for basketball. I don't have time for swimming. I don't have time for this extracurricular that you set up. Yes. How did you guys work through that?
Well, my son's been doing basketball ever since he was 2, swimming ever since he was 2. He's doing taekwondo right now, and really, I just kind of jam pack all that in the week that I have him. So I just keep him active. He loves to read. So right now, trying to do a book club down in Dudley at Frugal Bookstore. Or he likes Legos, so I just find anything I can just to keep him engaged that he enjoys. But to answer your question, I just do it on the weekends that I have him. So that's what has worked for me so far. I know I'm going to try to give him some additional sports, and I know as he gets older, he's going to need to practice throughout the week. That's just a challenge I haven't come across yet, but it will be happening soon. Looking to start playing football, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, as far as the fathers that have been there, done that, and maybe you have more resources, then we're going to go ahead and link at the end of the show. Please inbox me, TaylaAndre, so we can get Javon the resources that he needs, and other fathers as well. All social media, TaylaAndre. If you know of any attorneys that do pro bono work, if you know of anything that you have access to, please share that with me so I can share it with not just the men today, but with anybody who may be going through this issue right now. Kamal, how was it for you with your boys?
So, again, their mother would just make autonomous decisions sometimes, and I would try to include my sons. I don't like to practice adultism, so I would ask them really what is it that they want to do, what are they interested in. So I knew they like basketball, football, the traditional sports that the kids in the neighborhoods play. And, you know, I was open to whatever, but she would sign him up for like a tennis camp or something that would cost, I don't know how much, but just a lot, you know, every week. And I would be responsible. She would just say, you know, you need to pay this, you know, like, you know, or pay at least half of that, pay all of it usually. And for a while I would just pay it because it was like, all right, you know, they're doing it. But then I would see they weren't going or they didn't like the program either. And then, you know, she signed them up one time in particular. This is after we had joint custody, legal and physical. She signed him up for a music program, and they both were into music, but they were both into, like, one was into engineering, the other one was into singing, and she had them, like, playing the flute and something, you know, things like that. I mean, you know, granted they should be open to, you know, different forms of, you know, arts or whatever, but they wouldn't want to go. So, you know, the times I would have them, and whenever she wanted to drop them off to me, she could. So that's kind of how our joint custody went, even though I was supposed to have them from Monday until Friday, but she would, you know, that would rotate. So a lot of times I would have to be responsible for taking them there, picking them up, and paying for it, and a lot of times they wouldn't even want to go.
They wouldn't even want nothing to do with it. Wow. So there are struggles there goes some of the struggles that men are going through right now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to actually own the space as a father. We're going to hopefully get a consensus of what next steps are or should be, and we'll be right back.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
Waking Up with Tayla Andre. I am Tayla Andre, Unorthodox Conversations Leading to Universal Consciousness. Women, we have to own it. We have to own our insecurities. We have to own the fact that we are angry, we are bitter, we are upset. I was mad at the fact that the relationship was over. I was 17 years old. This was going to be the man that I was going to be with for the rest of my life. We were going to raise a family together. Didn't work out that way. I'm actually a baby mama. And at the end of the day, that was the one thing that I did not want, was the label of being a baby mama. And that's what I fought for. That's what I was angry about. That's what, can't nobody else play the mommy role. I don't want no other female around my kids. Today, I can honestly say that their dad has an amazing friend that doesn't have a title of girlfriend, but she is great with my children. They do Easter baskets together. They do fun activities on the weekend. She's artistic. Like, I really like her for him, and I really love the way that my children talk about her. And they have nothing but good things to say about her. And if she's not harming them or hurting them or being disrespectful to them, and they like her, who am I to say, no, you can't be around her? One of the things that I always remember I can't remember the movie, but it was Julia Roberts and Sigourney Weaver, and Sigourney Weaver was sick. I might be wrong about that. It might not be Sigourney Weaver, but the mother was sick, and the youngest son was so angry and so mad at the dad's new girlfriend, and he said, "Mom, I can hate her if you want me to." And that's when it hit the mother, like, I really don't want you to hate her. I'm just angry that I'm dying and this is his new boo. So that's something to think about. As far as the men are concerned, I really want your take on, like, as a man going through this, understanding from like a female's role, like, you ruined our relationship, it was supposed to be forever. What advice would you give to men that are currently going through this hell? Like, it's hell. I know I put my kid's father through the trenches. And you know, like, personally,
yeah,
like...
Yeah. I always was an advocate for...
Always, yes.
I mean, because he was a great father. You know, he's a good father. So I know for me, I had to look at why the mother of my children was acting the way she was acting, kind of, you know, and how I may have played some part in that, you know, and just start to open up the dialogue between me and her to talk about it, because I think that we fought about it all the time, never really talked about it, right? So I just started talking to her about it, and she, you know, this is when she wasn't as emotionally charged as she was the initial time she found out I was with someone new, but, you know, some time later. And I think that, you know, those were the better conversations that we had that led to us being in the space now where, you know, we're great. You know, we don't, even though my children are a lot older, we still speak frequently in regards to their development, you know, and we know we did for a while. So I think that, you know, a lot of it had to do with me saying I wasn't going to allow her to bully me with the court system, and then I was also going to make sure that, you know, I tried to be as understanding as possible in regards to what, you know, she was feeling. So and I did that, and you know, I mean, things eventually worked out, but it wasn't. It was definitely a bumpy road. It wasn't something that happened overnight either. So.
I completely understand. Yeah. Well, Javon said he really didn't feel like he had any resources or anybody to help him out, and he's going through the struggle now. So we're going to put up some of the resources, some links for you guys to get a pen and paper to write those down. And if you have any resources, please send them in. I really advocate for fathers. I'm really advocating for men. If there is anything that you know that you can share, please share with me, TaylaAndre, and that's on all social media sites. I thank you, I love you, I appreciate you, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.